So my name's Nick, and I've been toying with starting this channel now for quite a while, actually, quite a long time. And it's been a case that I think most people probably go through, which is, am I ready? When am I ready? When should I start this? So I want to give you a few sort of things about me, and then there's a topic I really want to talk about that I keep seeing popping up everywhere. And I want to talk about that, and that will kind of be the theme of the channel. I'll talk about my artwork as well through various different videos, including some videos of how I produce things and how I create things. But yeah, so basically I have been an artist full-time really now for just under 2 years. I am trained as an artist, so I did go for several years to art school. And that's kind of why I have a sort of an informed opinion on this subject, and my view on things might surprise you, but yeah. So many years ago, too many years ago. Let's not go into details. I did go to art school. When I finished art school, I decided I'd just been slogging away, so I decided I just wanted to do something free. I wanted to go somewhere and do something fantastic. So I ended up actually going to America for several months. I had savings at the time, and I went to America for several months with money, but I also had savings when I came back. While I was over there, I spent every penny I had. As you could probably imagine, I was 21 years old. I just went for it. 21, 23? 23 years old. Let's get that right. That makes more sense. I was 23 years old, and I spent every penny I had. So when I came back to the UK, I needed to get a job, and I ended up getting a job in a company selling mobile phones. And it wasn't very long before I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the social side of things. I was good at it. I could sell things quite easily, and I ended up rising through the ranks to management, etc. And then over the years, I worked for several mobile phone companies, and then for the last 10 years, I actually worked as an art dealer for a gallery. Throughout the UK, but also in London for a few years. And that was selling things like sort of homegrown artists, but also things like Andy Warhol and things like that. I became sort of a bit of a person selling Andy Warhol's work. So I've done quite a few things, and I kind of drifted back towards art later on. And then we moved to Spain. That was a very conscious decision that we made to move to Spain. And in doing that, that obviously changed the dynamic I had with my job. And I still carried on working for that company for quite a while, but then January last year, we parted company, and I left that job and went. That will be one of the dogs. I left that job and decided I wanted to, really give it a go with the art side of things. So I paint realism, as you can probably see. This is one of my oil paintings. So this is the kind of work I'd been doing, sort of on and off. I did this while I was still working, but this is the kind of work I was doing. And my wife asked me to do a pencil piece of one of our dogs, so I did. And lots of people loved it, and people started asking me to do pieces for them. So that kind of drifted into doing that as well. And then for probably that year, really, I did pencil portraits. I didn't want to spend any money particularly, and I'm sure a lot of you out there who are artists are well aware of how much it costs to be an artist. I see artists, and they burn through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds, dollars, everything of supplies on a single painting. And I can't do that. Without knowing I'm going to get paid for it at the end of it. That's a big investment. So many of you will be like me, and you're sort of like, well, I don't want to spend any money. So really, I started out doing pencil portraits, which involved basically buying a pad for about €12, which is about $12, which is about £10, and some pencils, some basic pencils. In fact, I got, where are they? These mechanical pencils. That's all I use, is those two mechanical pencils to do all my pencil work. I do have a pencil piece going at the moment, a commission, but I can't show you because it's a gift. So that's how I started out. And then towards the end of the year, I didn't grow, well, I suppose I did grow a little bit bored, but I wanted some colour back. You know, it was all monochromatic, it was all black and white, and I really wanted some colour back into my life. So I started offering colour, and that's what I wanted to do. But it became, what medium do I use? So I've previously used oils, I've used acrylics, I've used gouache, and obviously pencils. Never used coloured pencils, and never used pastels ever in my life. But the problem with the painting side of things is it takes me a hell of a long time. Mainly because I've probably not had time to produce enough pieces. So that's anyway, that's a whole other story, a different video, about repetition breeds improvement. I decided pastels because there's a softness to them. There's a softness and delicateness to them, which I thought was quite beautiful. So the first piece I did was this. You can see this. This is of our late dog, Millie. She passed a few months ago now. She was 16, but she was an absolute cutie, as you can see from the picture. Now, this has got, this was my fault. I asked for non-reflective glass when I had it done, and it's kind of like misty. It's kind of weird. I don't like it. So we do want to get it reframed with museum glass, but that's a different conversation. Again, maybe a different video, who knows? So yeah, so that's where that went down to, and that became really popular. So I've not stopped doing commissions in pastels of pets since, in those months since, and I do enjoy it. It is exciting, but I do want to do more wildlife stuff, like the leopard behind me here. That's in pastels, and also I've been working on this tiger, which is in acrylics. So I have other things happening and other things I want to do. Currently I'm working out of what is essentially a spare bedroom, so I don't have a huge amount of space. We are due to move house soon, and with that there's a potential for me to have a larger studio space, which will enable me to have a permanent fixture for pastels and a permanent wall for oils and acrylics, and I can just have everything set up all the time. I haven't got to keep packing things away and things like that, which drives me absolutely insane. So let's talk about why you're here, the topic of the conversation. Do you really need formal art training? What's my honest view on whether you need formal art training? Well, as you can see, I paint in a lot of detail, and that comes from my formal art training. My art degree is in scientific and natural history illustration, and I was trained to look for the detail and paint the detail and focus on the detail and capture the detail, which I love, incidentally. I do love doing it, because I never want to paint photographically. I did at one point in my life, but I've realised as I've grown up and grown older that I don't necessarily want to do that. I want to capture things in a very semi-photographic way, but when you look at the piece really closely, you'll see the painterliness of it. That's what I want to get to, and that's what I strive for, which is slightly different. But that was trained into me. I've tried in recent, sort of since the last couple of years, to change how I function with that and try to do looser work, slightly more impressionistic pieces and things like that. And I can tell you, wow, that just blows my mind how people do that. For years, people have said to me, because I paint very detailed, I must be able to do anything. And nothing could be further from the truth. My brain wants to add detail, and unlocking that and reversing that is really difficult. So yes, I've had formal training in how to do very highly detailed work, but I feel like to a degree I've lost out on that sort of freedom of expression and freedom of learning and freedom of exploring and all the stuff that makes self-taught artists what I believe to be definitely the best artists in the world. almost every artist I look at and admire and feel, wow, that is just mind blowing. They're almost always self-taught artists, and I think for the vast majority, a lot of people who are self-taught artists feel lesser in some way, and I don't know why that is. I don't know whether that's an elitism from people who did get art degrees or have qualifications in the art world. I don't know whether that's just a natural self-doubt because it feels a little bit imposter syndrome because you didn't go through that section, therefore you haven't got the right to have this section. But you look at some of these artists who are self-taught and they're just phenomenal. There are some artists I see who can just literally flick between truly abstract or abstract impressionism straight the way through to beautifully detailed portraiture and things like that. And my brain's just gone. And I do want to look into, again, I do want to explore a little more looser style. So I guess my experience of art school was, in the first year, there was a lot of tutoring. There was a lot of hands-on tutoring and things like that. Second year, it lifted a lot of that hands-on stuff, and you kind of became a little bit more self-propelled, if you like. And then when you hit that third year, it was like, do we have tutors? Do they exist? Have they all gone? Where are the tutors? Because it was the beginning of the year. You've got to do this, you've got to do this, you've got to do this, and here are your deadlines, off you go. And that was kind of it. And it was like, what's the point of that? I don't know what that is, because where's the learning? Where's the feedback? Where's anything else? And the feedback kind of came at the end, which I guess you could argue is useful to a degree, but I always found it to be something sort of anticlimactic, because it was kind of like, what feedback is going along when I'm learning something? That's what's useful. And also the projects were all immense projects and things like that, as you can imagine. So I didn't, oh, and incidentally as well, art schools, this may have changed by the way, but art schools in general, I believe, don't teach you a damn thing of what to do when you actually leave. They don't tell you how to get clients. They don't tell you how to market yourself. They don't tell you how social media works. They don't tell you how the business works. They don't tell you how to charge people. None of it. They don't tell you any of that. They just try and give you the skills and then go, off you go, be an artist. Or off you go, you're not our problem anymore, next batch. It kind of felt like that. And maybe I've just got a kind of sour sort of impression of it. And I'm sure people will tell me in the comments if that's the case. And I'm sure there are people out there, by the way, who've had superb experiences. And I'm quite sure they've had superb experiences because of specific tutors who have made that a superb experience, which is fantastic, because I do believe, like in jobs are fantastic because of the management in those jobs. And learning is fantastic because of the people you're learning from. So there will be people who've had mentors, essentially, in art school that have been superb, and they've really mentored people fantastically well. But there are also people like me who felt like it was just, we were just on a production line going through, and by the end of it, oh, you're an artist now, go, and then let's get the other parts in at the other end so that we can try and build another artist and send them off on their way. That's kind of how it felt. So for me, if you're sat there and thinking of, do I need to have formal training? Do I need to go to art school? I would actually say you will get infinitely more benefit from artists online, YouTubers, people who are doing the job and also educating at the same time. I'm not talking about myself, by the way, when I say that. I mean, it's my hope and plan for this channel, but that's not what I'm trying to get across. I'm trying to get across, that passion and persistence are what actually get you there. There's a great sort of analogy of that you get much more out of doing 100 or 10, whatever, a multiple of quick pieces that take you, let's say you do 20 small paintings over 2 weeks. You'll get much more out of those 20 small paintings over 2 weeks than you will doing one large painting that takes you 2 weeks. 100%. Because as soon as you finish one of those paintings, you move then on to the next painting and you've learned from the first painting. And then as soon as you finish that second painting, which is marginally better than the first painting, you go on to the third painting. Now the third painting is then marginally better than the second painting and much better than the first. Then you go on to the fourth and it's marginally better, etc., etc., etc. So you get to the 20th. You don't start a painting and finish it infinitely better than you started it. But through repetition, you do. And now that's not particularly what I found we did in art school. There wasn't a huge amount of that in art school. Most of the stuff we did actually were large projects. So we didn't produce an enormous amount of work during the 3 years. It was very strange. And it was all very large. So I think if you are looking to be an artist, self-employed artist, professional artist, if you want to call yourself, if you want to label it in that manner, I think you do learn more. I now am learning huge amounts from certain artists who I follow online. And in a future video, I will actually list through who the artists are that I just find inspiring online, and truly, really do kind of make me want to be a better artist. And I'll also do a little bit on comparison and how you look at these people and whether you're sort of sat there going, I'm not as good as them, or you look at other people and go, well, I'm way better than them. So it's about how you take your information, and you should always be learning. That's crucial. And I actually do think nowadays, I think YouTube is actually the best educator there is. Who do I think that art school is good for? I actually think art school is very good for people who are absolute rubbish at focus. If you suck at self-focusing and breaking down your days and making sure that you clock in mentally at this time and work, and then clock out at that time and work, that kind of stuff. If that's you, then art school probably is a good idea, because if you're a serial procrastinator and you will always find something else to do, it's difficult to then motivate yourself to learn to do it, because to learn to do something, you've got to go through all the horrible bits. So you've got to do 100 absolutely god-awful drawings before you suddenly sort of feel like the pencil and the brush and things are working with you, not against you. And you'll do pieces that you get halfway through and you're like, oh, Jesus Christ, what is going on? Why did I even start this? Why am I even doing this? And you've got to push on. So I'm deviating now. I'm going to cover a lot of these things in more detail in future videos. This is my first video, so forgive me for rambling to a certain degree. I'd love to hear from anyone who watches this, which might be 4 people, I've no idea. I'd love to hear from anybody who watches this, what your thoughts are in the comments. Are you a massive advocate of art school? Are you a massive advocate of self-taught? Are you considering whether to go to art school or be self-taught? Are you in that journey? Are you currently working and you desperately want to be a full-time artist? Is that something that describes you as a person? Passion is a big part of it. I love creating these pieces. This leopard, I think, is going to be phenomenal when I finish. I'm really, really excited about it. But I've got just a myriad of other pieces that I want to do in my mind. And I don't know whether I want to do pastel with them or whether I want to pick up the oils again, the acrylics. So in future videos, I want to go through, and incidentally, if you've made it this far in my video, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Please do think about subscribing, because I do have a lot of other topics I want to chat about. And I do want to make it a chatty sort of situation. I am going to do some videos of creating some pieces as well. If anybody's got any specific requests, because obviously I do detailed work in various different mediums. So I do want to do some specific videos, but also there's various things I want to talk about, sort of like AI. I want to talk about art galleries versus not using art galleries. I want to talk about social media. I want to talk about the business side of things. I want to talk about how you charge, how you price your work, where you find your clients. There's all sorts of things I want to have conversations about. And so stick with me. My video quality skills, I hope, will improve. Might actually pick up a microphone. Don't know if I can afford one. Probably can't afford one. But I might pick up a microphone because the sound quality will just be much, much better if I do pick up one. And I know how frustrating it is when you're watching a video and the sound quality is just absolutely awful. And I hope to get my studio looking pretty, like so many people who are on YouTube, who I follow, watch, and they have these fabulous studios that have wonderful houseplants. This is my houseplant. How pathetic is that? So maybe you can watch this rather pathetic little attempt at a houseplant grow, and that can be part of the channel. Look at that. It's alive, so I'll take that. Yeah, so hopefully I can get sort of the space looking better, and when we move, I hope to be able to have a more workable area. Thank you for sticking around. Please do like the video. Please do follow my channel, subscribe to my channel, as I say, and leave a comment. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you want my next video to be about. What do you want me to talk about next? And we'll look at doing that. But until next time, cheerio.